Yo, what is going on, you guys? It's your boy Jerry Trades back in one other banger video. And on today's video, I want to go ahead and jump into April's market recap with you guys to continue the series here on the channel. And April was a very interesting month. We started the month with a very aggressive move to the upside as Trump went ahead and announced the ceasefire. But later on in the month, we began to see a lot of market volatility, and some would claim manipulation on Trump's side, because we noticed that Trump would claim that we were de-escalating in this war, and then Iranian officials will take to Truth Social or social media and claim that there's no official contact between the two governments and that this was a form of manipulation, even taunting investors on how to navigate the manipulation, which for me was my first time ever seeing this performance. Nothing like it had ever happened before in Q1, and caught a lot of investors off guard, moving very aggressively and ending off the month with sending SPY to all-time highs as we had a positive tech earnings and this de-escalation of the war continued. So I hope to jump into this markets recap to help you guys better understand what moved the markets in April and how you guys can better prepare yourself and hedge for the month of May and know what to expect. I hope you guys enjoyed this market recap. Jerry Trades and Socaltrading Group, over and out. Yo, what's going on, you guys? We're gonna go ahead and jump into this market recap here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up TradingView, and after that I'm gonna walk you guys through some events that I think you guys should be paying attention to, or should have been paying attention to when approaching this month's market, to know why are the markets moving this way, you know. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm gonna edit my face screen over here. Let's go ahead and make this smaller, put myself right there in the corner, bring this up to size. All right, nice. So the month of April goes ahead and starts right here as soon as March ended. But remember how I mentioned in the intro, at the beginning of March, we went ahead and got the first announcement of a ceasefire or peace talks between Israel and Iran. But look, the whole month of March, starting here, immediate downtrend. We've seen SPY go from a high of 687 down to a low of 630. And this was by far one of the most volatile markets I had ever seen, because shortly after that month, SPY continues to go from 630 at a low to 677 just 8 days later. And on a 12-day rally, non-stop selling until literally the day 12, April 10th, a 10-day rally, non-stop buying, and wow, did she pull down to just take right back off right before tech earnings. So there's a multitude of factors here in this market, you know. We had Iran and Israel war start here, very aggressive. Oil prices were shooting up, inflation was skyrocketing. We had selling off all across the market. Later on, we noticed, hey, with the end of that ceasefire and, you know, peace talks coming into play, look at what happened. Markets absolutely took off the next month. And this is very important for you guys to begin to understand, you know, the pattern between markets selling off due to events, but also how quickly they could go ahead and flip on their head towards the upside with now another course of events, you know. Iran and Israel war, oil prices skyrocketing was such a huge variable in these markets. It wasn't just something like maybe a CPI report. This had a rippling effect across global economies. You know, you have prices in Europe, prices in you can say the Middle East, fuel prices skyrocketing, and if they felt it, we over here on the Western Hemisphere, being a lot less dependent on their oil for our own, I guess you can say, efficiency, we didn't feel it as much. But we did notice here as a consumer, hey, gas prices do go up to $6-7 a gallon, and that was very expensive, you know, and they're continuing to rise. Even US prices, you could go ahead and also look. Let's go ahead and bring up US oil here. USO, United States oil, look, oil prices at 144, but peaked at a high over here just last week of 151. So oil prices are still very, very high, and this could extremely ripple out into us consumers, leading to your $8 a gallon, maybe $10 a gallon for gas. And a lot of people are already thinking, damn, $10 a gallon for gas is like insane. $7 is already here. You know, I see a lot of people paying $7 for premium gas at the pump, and that's just the beginning. You know, oil prices being at 152, 144, anything above 100, you know, before this Israel and Iran war started, you know, we had fuel prices. Let's go back into March. March fuel prices, look at where we were at. Below 100. At before March, right? Before March, February, $80 a barrel, $81, $82 a barrel. As soon as the war started, boom, skyrocketed. And that was another important factor of this month's market for you guys to notice as well. Like when we noticed the Strait of Hormuz, if you guys watched that recap I posted for March, the Strait of Hormuz was a body of water in between Iran and Saudi Arabia in the Red Sea that allows for exporting of all the oil in that region out to the rest of the world. And it accumulates for about 20 to 25% of the global supply. So once we heard that this was closed due to Iran's navy, it should have already signaled a lot of call options, which for us as investors here at Socaltrading Group, we did go ahead and position. And once we heard the ceasefire went ahead and be announced and that the strait was going to open, we also did place puts on the downside. So that was a really big event that happened this month as well. Now, aside from that, we also had SPY jump up, from 630 all the way up to 700s. And now with tech earnings, which is another very important part of the market near the end of April, was paying attention to these earnings. Tech earnings, the biggest holdings in the S&P 500 in the vast majority of the market, right? A lot of money is in tech right now. So Apple reporting good earnings, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, all of them reporting good earnings, went ahead and sent this market to new all-time highs because all of their stocks continue to rise. And this is important as an investor to digest. Why is it that these markets are going up? And correlating that move to also, hey, these Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, big companies. You have Nvidia and AMD coming up next week. But noticing that these companies reporting earnings, hey, this is why markets are going up. You also add in the ceasefire, the de-escalation of the Israel and Iran war. This is why markets are going up. Now, instead of just reacting more primal, you have actual evidence proving why these markets are going up. And that's very important. That's also something that you got to notice as an investor. The correlation between events and price moves in the markets, these are going to help you, save yourself from maybe potential losses, but also position yourself for potential gains. So aside from that, in the month of April, we noticed very early on a pretty decent, I would say, manipulation here, We had very aggressive moves towards the upside and downside at the beginning of April, when Donald Trump and the Iranian government were going back and forth on social media platforms saying that, hey, we were selling off, ceasefire happened, going up, next day, there's no ceasefire, it was a lie, came down. A lot of that, honestly, near end of March, kind of early April period, was just a lot of manipulation, and it was heavy, and it was all, this is important you guys understand what manipulation is. Manipulation is when there's events that are being continuously, for example, Donald Trump tweeting, on Truth Social, hey, ceasefire, and then Iranian government, no, these ceasefire claims are not real, we haven't spoken to them at all, and then sell off, and then Donald Trump the next week, hey, we're talking about peace talks, two-week ceasefire is going to go ahead and take a place, boom, markets will go up. So there's like some sort of, I guess you can say, correlation between these tweets, these social media posts, and how the markets are moving. That's very important too. For me, I guess you can say in this market, it really stuck out like a sore thumb than compared to other markets. But looking at this through this lens, you guys also got to pay attention to headlines. Now social media is such a huge player in markets. Investors are looking at this. No one was ignoring Trump's Truth Social posts. Everyone was paying close attention to them because they knew how impactful they were to markets. So if other big scale investors are paying attention to that, make sure you two are on top of that so you're informed during your trades and investments throughout this market. But now going into the month of May, we do have a pretty big earnings coming up. We have, I believe we have AMD. Let's jump into it. So let's see, we have, can we bring up this calendar real quick? Looks like everything is locked. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump into a different earnings calendar. We have Palantir reporting earnings. We have On Semiconductors reporting earnings, which is a big one. We have Let me see, is NVIDIA, I could have sworn NVIDIA is reporting earnings. I guess NVIDIA might be reporting earnings a little bit later in the month. Let me see, any other ones that are sticking out here? None really there. I think it's May 20th when we have NVIDIA's earnings, and that's big. That's going to move markets because there's a lot of money in NVIDIA. And that's also very important you guys pay attention to these earnings seasons. You know, when there's a large amount of capital in these sectors, and these sectors are going to be, you know, some of the biggest performing companies in these sectors are going to be reporting earnings. Make sure you guys are a part of that and well informed to make sure that you guys don't lose any money, or you guys know how significant of an impact this is in the markets. You know, let's go ahead and look into this earnings right here. This one is the one that I'm really watching. NVIDIA earnings is going to be in 2026. No earnings call summary, no. This is going to be reported on when is next? Okay, when is, let me just ask the question. Wow, this is terrible. NVIDIA earnings report is going to be... Did it already get announced? There's no way. May 27, 2026. That's the earnings you guys want to be paying attention to, because NVIDIA earnings, there's about, well, I can say easily like 60% of market money in capital, I guess you can say exposure for a lot of investors near this company. This company is blended into a bunch of other Magnificent Seven companies in the same sector as them. And if these guys have a bad earnings, this could extremely send the markets down to a new low. And man, you'll see a huge impact and drawdown in the markets if NVIDIA happens to miss earnings, which by all means, I think is actually a possibility, because we've seen a lot of other tech companies pull back on their capital expenditure, pull back on how much they're investing into these markets, because they don't have the infrastructure. It's not because there's no demand for the product, but they don't have the data centers, they don't have the energy to be able to sustain this much, I guess you can say, consumption of the product. So now they're doubling down on infrastructure, but not so much on the advancement of the technology. And this is very important, because I think as a lot of these tech companies begin to pull back, NVIDIA can see that shortage in revenue, see that shortage in profits, and fall short of investor expectations, missing those earnings and causing a pretty significant sell-off in the markets because of that. So that's kind of my prediction going into May. I think that a lot of it's going to be weighed in on NVIDIA's earnings and the true de-escalation of this Iran and Israel war, which does seem like it is on track to happen. You know, it does look like these markets do want to go ahead and, you know, follow these, I guess you can say, guidelines here for that de-escalation of the war. So I do think that that's going to be a very huge component as we approach, you know, May, NVIDIA, and also beginning of May. If these do go ahead and fall into place and we do end this war, Strait of Hormuz stays open, oil prices begin to come back down, it's going to be a really beautiful market, and I think we're going to have a big opportunity to go ahead and cash big. But other than that, that is the monthly recap of April. It's kind of a little bit of a, you know, my second one going into these monthly recaps. But like I said, I do want to jump into now doing this week by week, because there's so much headlines, there's so much things that move the markets that honestly, man, it's a lot to fit into on a 30-day basis. But every 7 days, I believe we could go ahead and jump into that, if not on a daily basis, to go ahead and share with you guys some key components, some key deals, and take this up a notch for you guys to have a better, more informed experience on your investing and trading journey, alongside here Socaltrading Group and Jerry Trades. I hope all you guys enjoyed this video, and let's go ahead and jump out. You know, hope all you guys have a wonderful week trading in this upcoming market. We're getting the first week of May. Let's go ahead and get it, boys. Jerry Trades of Socaltrading Group, over and out.